I've been keeping this voice ace in the hole for quite a while. One of my personal favorites. You've probably all read this. It is hilarious. There are very few spelling mistakes. Some of you could care to take notice of that, as Greg just wanted me to say that quickly. Let's get right along. Woo! Telling you researchers you can tame A-0682 with a newspaper and a tummy rub is right out. Dr.D3ath is no longer able to challenge Carpivio to unwinnable games like tic-tac-toe. It was 3 weeks before Carpivio conceded a draw. While it is true that nobody expects the death-ish... That's actually a really hard word to say. While it is true that nobody expects the Death Inquisition. Yeah, I'm just skipping right past that. That is only because there is no such thing. Dr.D3ath is not the king of anywhere, nor is Dr.D3ath the queen of anywhere. Additionally, Dr.D3ath is not allowed access to A-0113. A-0399 is not a Green Lantern ring. A-0339 is not any type of power ring. We don't care how many colors you paint on the bloody thing, Death. A-0936 is not to be used for recreational or procreational purposes. A-0936 is not to be used to instigate harpy cockfights, no matter how high the betting stakes. Although it is entirely possible to use objects currently under control of the laboratory to create tentacle monsters, no. Not even if Dr.D3ath asks nicely. There is no market for BESO brand pornography. May I just point out that this is false. There are actually quite a few. I think you'll find... yeah, I can't be bothered with crossing it out. So how would I just call it cat? No one would ever notice. No, not even in Germany. You cannot give the command strip with A-0061. Dr.D3ath should not replace the buckshot in laboratory-issued shotgun shells with any of the following: birdseed, confetti, cake sprinkles, sawdust, or sexual lubricant. Lacing A-0408's feed with LSD is strictly out of the question. It is inadvisable to leave Dr.D3ath without guards near a fire alarm for more than 6 seconds. Results can be catastrophic. Any requests made by Dr.D3ath to utilize A-0212 for enhancement are to be denied, due to several requests being submitted with the research goal stated as to stick my privates in it and hope for the best. I feel really sad for you, Carpivio, as you made him a doctor, which means he can get away with quite a few things without being noticed for quite a long time. Victims of A-0217 are not toys. Dr.D3ath is not allowed to bargain with personnel for souls if they are unaware of A-0158. Dr.D3ath is not allowed to go off my medication. That doesn't make too much sense. Whatever. Dr.D3ath is not allowed to pretend I have any medication to be on. Carpivio, you silly pony. You're constantly on medication. You eat medication for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In fact, have you eaten anything at all in the RPs? Well, I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure that you haven't, other than stimulants. So it doesn't make that much sense. Dr.D3ath may not use any form of the word accident as an excuse. If an object file says never to do something, it is not because we want to control your mind. A-0437 is not allowed to be given out as weaponry to unsuspecting new researchers. He is not allowed to end reports with lyrics from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, though I do recall that Dr.D3ath and Icequake had quite a good time doing that, playing TF2 ones. So, again with the loopholes there. It is allowed to end reports with the lyrics from Safety Dance. A-0963 is not a joy buzzer. Dr. Death is not a superhero of any sort, head of public relations, in charge of orientation for new staff, a doctor of psychology, major to vacant, in possession of an IQ of over 300, head of object review, or a member of maintenance staff. Pretty much, the title doctor is just there for flavor. Speaking of fishy doctor titles, we haven't seen any of Carbithio's credentials recently, or ever in... Yes. Dr. Death is no longer allowed to make up Jodies for morning calisthenics. Yes, this includes the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse song. You forgot House. Dr. Death is not from an alternate timeline, though he could be. Dr. Death cannot override orders to preserve the timeline unless we are Doctor Who. Because he can do that, right? I don't know. You hear this, Icequake? You cannot plan activities with Dr. Death. Dr. Icequake is not allowed to edit files while drunk. Haha! I told you. You really, really need to work on this problem. May I point out also that 1, 2, 3, 4 of the ponies in our group apparently have a drinking problem. Count them up. Well, that includes Carback, though he's not really a pony. Dr. Death is not allowed to challenge anyone to duel and then give them A-0572. I did say anyone instead of any pony, because while I am constantly in the RP, I am also constantly out of it. I am the fourth wall spirit breaker guy. I can say anyone. Dr. Death is not allowed to use thimbles in any aspect. Chainsaws are not the answer to every question, nor is more chainsaws or chainsaw cannons. Dr. Death is not allowed to use any object in the laboratory to alter or affect the outcomes of any reality-based television shows, including but not limited to Survivor, Big Brother, Hell's Kitchen, American Idol, or any dating shows on VH1. Not even if Dr. Death asks nicely or offers sexual service. Dr. Death is not allowed to take A-0278 out on joyrides. Ooh, simply fabulous. Icequake, why do you still associate with Dr. Death? Dr. Death is not allowed to administer spankings to Dr. Icequake as punishment, as it only causes more rules to be broken. Dr. Death is not allowed to spank the monkey. Dr. Death is not allowed to review Dr. Icequake's office security tapes. This implies it's happened before, Icequake. I sure hope he didn't catch you. Neither is he allowed to have a live feed of Dr. Icequake's office from his computer. Ooh, Icequake, this is... You're going to have to check this later. Dr. Death is not allowed to use A-0821 to make kick-me signs. A-20288 is not an appropriate Hudson Hooves Day gift. A-0082 is not to be given any song requests, especially not Like a Virgin. They've supposedly used condoms floating in A-082. Oh yes, Dr. Death really shouldn't be allowed to do that. Why is Dr. Death even allowed to be in the laboratory? Does he contribute at all? Nothing in the laboratory is classified over 9,000. Stop posting classified information on 4chan. Isn't that the point of 4chan? Attempting to get around this restriction by using A-0062 is rather explicitly frowned upon. Rather explicitly frowned upon? That means, to put it very simply for all of you simple ponies, it means it's very rare that people frown upon this. You could say it is frowned upon, rather explicitly frowned upon. I'm sorry, Carbivio, I think I'm doing Icequake's grammar Nazi routine again. No using A-0705 for personal gain, or to plant monitoring equipment. And no giving them tons of extra Play-Doh just to see what they can make. No telling them that Dr. Icequake's underwear is a strategic ambush position. I've heard complaints about this from Icequake. You really, this is a good rule. I have to live with him, you know. No asking Dr.D3ath to explain his definition of strategic value ever again. Those who are caught asking will be terminated. If it involves doing something wrong, it isn't right. Who is to decide what is right and wrong, Mr. Carbivio? Notice you don't get a doctor. If Dr.D3ath has to ask, it's above his clearance level. Dr.D3ath is not allowed to declare war on any country, thing, or equine. Except maybe Celestia, right, Carbivio? Isn't that kind of like your whole point of existing in this timeline? There are no authorized experiments attempting to give Dr.D3ath A-0105's ability. He would only use it for evil. Also, however, who are you to decide what is evil and what is good? For all you know, he would be trying to rescue... what was her name? Well, shit, that didn't help. Damn it. That's not helpful at all. Thanks a lot. Whatever. Her name was something like that, right? I don't know, where was I? Laboratory expense accounts are not to be used to purchase pornography, except for those written by Icequake, apparently. Just, where is it? Typing. Kind of awkward on this computer. Dr.D3ath is not a marital aid, and he cannot refer to himself as such, especially on official documents. Dr.D3ath is not the Lord of Rodley Might, and is hereby banned from playing Dungeons & Dragons, making use of objects to simulate the real danger. This is called live-action roleplay, and it is technically a legitimate form of playing Dungeons & Dragons. But fine, be that way. 2 girls, 1 cup is not an appropriate screensaver to be applied to all workstations. I'm cutting it off right here because YouTube has a time limit, unfortunately. And, talking this much prevents stuff like cookies and cake and ice cream from being eaten. Bye-bye.